सूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Dealing with the crisis, spiritual perspective. The whole humanity is passing through a very difficult phase. A pall of gloom descended upon the whole world. It's a great challenge to all of us as human beings. Though pandemics are not new to mankind, for us as a generation, we are totally new to this kind of situation. They say way back in 1918, there was some Spanish flu. Many millions died. And that generation which faced that situation, they knew what that experience was. So loss of life is happening, loss of livelihoods. There is so much of pain, agony, anguish, fear, anxiety. Practically, it has affected every life. Such a major event. So the sun is rising in the east, sun is setting in the west. The air is blowing, the water is flowing, the fire is burning. Nature is doing its act perfectly. Everything is going on well, but the world doesn't appear beautiful anymore to us because from within we are not happy now. Prakriti, the physical universe, has not changed much, it is as it is. But still we can't see the beauty of the physical world now because of the stress or the anxiety that we are undergoing, because the economy is down. We don't know how long it will continue. The uncertainty, so it's creating a lot of panic, anxiety. So how to deal with such a situation? So the spiritual perspective, a philosophical perspective, we shall try to look into it a bit. So let me start with our own philosophy. If you just read the Indian philosophy, according to our philosophy, the world is unreal. Anything that is temporary, anything that is transient, anything that is momentary, anything that is changeful is unreal. One statement. So you may say, but Swamiji, a lot of suffering is there, we are all undergoing the suffering. What is the source of suffering? What is the locus point? The mind. So the mind is unreal, they say. So when the mind is unreal, any experience born of the unreal also must be unreal. So your pain, your stress, your anxiety is also unreal. Because the source of all this stress and anxiety is mind. Our philosophy says that mind is unreal. It is a fictitious thing. It is born of ahankara. This ahankara itself is unreal. So any experience born of a fictitious entity must be unreal also. So your stress, your anxiety, your tension, everything is unreal because all this you experience in your mind, the mind itself is not real. It is a fictitious projection on consciousness. That's what our philosophy says. So they have declared only one goal for us. Just look into the nature of the mind. Try to know thyself. This ghost of your mind is making you dance to its tunes, making all of us dance to its tunes. We are just dancing to its tune. This is a ghost. So at least now actually it's the time. If you have suffering, if you have anxiety, what is that source of suffering? It's the mind. Then you have to have the great question, what is the mind? What is its source? Why should I have this? What lies beyond? If you have this question, if you ponder deep, it will disappear because it's not real. When it disappears, what remains is only consciousness, only Chit, only the Lord, only the truth will remain. This world is just an appearance, a projection of the mind. But can we tell this philosophy now? But if you can't tell it now, when can you tell it? Right? So, any experience born of mind is unreal. But today, the way we are going, our idea of progress, our idea of development, our idea of civilization, everything is connected and related to only the world of name and form. But our philosophy says the world of name and form is unreal because it is transient, it is temporary, it is changeful. Why have you fixed your soul on the changeful? You have riveted your attention to the changeful. Changeful one day actually will go because it is its own nature. It is intrinsic to the changeful, right? To die, to decay, to disappear one day. And now actually we feel the suffering of our beloved relatives, friends, colleagues. They pass away. So we have to reflect a little on death also. So death is only to the physical body, right? That is the changeful. Now we have identified with the changeful. That's why we feel the suffering. Suffering is coming from where? Because when we say I only mean this physical body, I only understand this. And this ghost, the virus actually is taking it away. We will make all our best efforts to protect ourselves from the virus, but still actually a few people are dying. Tomorrow it could be your turn or my turn, right? So, how are we to deal with the situation? As our philosophy says, Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmas sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata. Dehi is eternal. Dehi is immutable. Dehi is indestructible. Deha is destructible. Physical body is destructible. The virus can only kill the physical body, but not you. You are not the physical body. You are the Atman. You are the consciousness. So what happens to consciousness when the body gets disintegrated, the body gets destroyed? It transmigrates. It takes up another body. Vasamsa jirnan yatha vihaya. Just as we remove, discard worn out garments and put on new garment, the soul discards the old body and takes up a new body, a new physical embodiment. Right? As such, you are indestructible. If this body goes, we take up another body, then why to fear? Today, the main problem is a fear that is taking a heavy toll, he says, more than the virus. We need to understand the fear is such a thing. Okay, anxiety and fear, they are such things, and they weaken us, human beings. Your immune system will not work in favor of you if you have fear. Right? And fear is because of wrong imagination. And why do we imagine in a wrong way? Because we have never been trained. Okay, we have never been trained as to how to use our faculty of imagination. Everything, whatever the kind of drama that happens, we believe it is real. We think it is real. There is a way to change. You can just change the course of the imagination, the way you want it. But as we are not given any training with regard to how to actually use the faculty of imagination, accidentally things are happening. There are variation, inter-individual variation is there. Different people have actually different capability with regard to this imagination. And 80 to 90% of the population, they use it in a negative way only. Because we are identified with so many things. What happens if that goes? What happens if this goes? It's all actually imaginary, first of all. And then that imagination runs riot there, unchecked. It goes on and goes on, goes on. So much so that and it takes possession of you. You are totally possessed by this ghost of fear. With that degree of fear, even if you get infected with a virus doesn't have to kill you. Your own fear will kill you. Immune system practically, it won't work. It gets paralyzed as it were. So it's very important. The mind plays a major role. And there is this faculty of imagination. How it is functioning, in which direction it is going. You need to take control of that. And you need to imagine only positive way. This philosophy will help you. Okay, what is the worst thing that is going to happen to us? Death. What is death? Change of garment. Okay. The mind says that you are going to die. So what? You just say, body will go, I'll take up another body. Can we say this? Then the imagination will go away. The wrong imagination, the negative imagination will go away. And the role that mind plays in our lives, particularly and actually in disease resistance, particularly in keeping ourselves in a healthy state of mind and physically, and that is not factored in much. And today, if people's idea of disease is, it's a totally physical thing. And now the doctors are saying again and again, don't imagine too far, don't fear. This virus will not kill you, it cannot. Your natural immune system is good enough to fight the battle. Even other things are also not necessary. You can take. But now actually it's a proved fact that actually people are dying because of fear. And doctors are saying this. Doctors are saying this. So now suddenly if you want to train your mind, actually you find it difficult. But this is how. So there is no death, because even if something wants to kill us, it cannot. Because we are made in the image of God. Just as our Lord is immortal, eternal, we are also immortal and eternal. So this consciousness is indestructible. Only transmigration happens. One body goes, another body comes. So even without corona also, without this virus also, whether corona or no corona, we are going to die for sure, right? Maybe virus is advancing the date a bit. Maybe, that's what. Okay, that's the fear. It doesn't matter. If somebody says that, okay, you conquered the virus, are you going to be here forever? No, that's not in the nature of things at all. That is not in the nature of things at all. Then why to fear? Then why to fear? So this fear is such a ghost, such an enemy of an individual. Most people are not paying attention to that. And so whatever the imagination that happens in the mind, they take it for real. And I have discussed this point again and again. Mind only wants that. Mind doesn't want you to observe it, because it wants to play with you. The moment you start observing it, you start taking cognizance of the drama that's going on here in the mind, and you want to change the drama according to your will, and then actually the mind shows its Viswarupa. Yeah, then actually the real battle begins. But your mind must yield to you. You should not be under the control of the mind, your mind must be under your control. Just by training this psychological thing, you can conquer any disease for that matter. So, though it's a fact, some deaths are happening. There is a lot of, difference between individual and individual in terms of immunity levels. There are so many factors here. There are genetic factors, there are nutritional, there are psychic, there are karmic. So, having said this, but if you are in a positive frame of mind, if you can keep your mind in a positive state, not thinking too much about the future, what will happen, don't worry, future will take care of itself. The imagination is all about tomorrow, right? And you have the fear that if I die, who will take care of my family members? The whole universe actually is being born by the Lord. There is a creator who is taking care of every creature. You and I are only insignificant things here. There is also the fear. All this imagination again. Okay, I don't fear my death. But if I die, there is a family dependent on me. Who will take care of them? How they will survive? Your mind will run, will imagine to such an extent that, oh, they all will become beggars without support. Their condition will be worse. It will imagine. Imagination can be anything, right? It will be wild. It can go any far. You allow it and it will go any far. And it will project such things, most irrational things, unreasonable things it will project. And will create such fear in you if you don't check it. If you don't nip it in the bud stage itself, the mind will go to such an extent that it will project practically your family actually will be on the streets, it will say. No. The Lord will empower them. He is taking care of every individual. Not even an ant is dependent on us. The whole creation actually is dependent on God, the Creator. The Creator will take care of. So on me and on you, nothing is dependent on this universe. Of this universe is dependent. So we should not have that kind of, that kind of ego that, these people are dependent on me. Nobody is dependent on nobody. As long as you are here, you take care of them. You show some concern for them and you work for them. Consider it as a privilege, God-given duty, and do your duty as best as you can. That's all. Now, what if I not there? What if I don't take care? What if I die today? Who will take care of them? This is all hypothetical imagination. Okay. You unnecessarily imagine things and spoil your peace of mind and make yourself weak and make yourself more prone and more susceptible to the virus. All this is imagination. All the suffering that is there in the world, it's just an imagination. That's all, nothing else. Or otherwise, just deal with the situation as it presents itself before you. What is tomorrow, we don't know. Okay, this is how the situation today. Let us see. Let the tomorrow come. If that tomorrow, if we remove, the life will become normal. This is one kind of challenge. Okay, one kind of situation. Of course, there is suffering, there is loss of livelihood. But you don't have to have anxiety. Will that help us in any way to deal with the situation better? We develop anxiety? We develop tension? No. And in fact, only when we are visited with such challenges, we will become strong. It's a kind of test. It's a kind of test, a difficult test, how strong you are. You can prove your spiritual mettle only when you are visited with challenges of this kind. There was a diamond merchant. He had two diamonds with him. One is original diamond, another is artificial diamond. Both used to look alike, absolutely same. Outwardly, the original diamond and the artificial diamond, absolutely no difference. So only this diamond merchant knew which was original and which was artificial. So this diamond merchant he used to go to kings and used to tell those kings, "Oh king, these two are the diamonds, one is original and one is duplicate. If you can tell me the original diamond, I will give you. If you can show the original diamond, I will give you the original diamond. The original diamond is very costly. And if you can't identify the original diamond, you have to give me half of your kingdom." That is the challenge, the big challenge. Only two diamonds, one is original, one is artificial. Absolutely alike. So many actually did not dare. Some who dared actually had to give half of their kingdom because they could not find out which was original. Then he had gone to one kingdom. There actually the king's Purohita was an ascetic. He was an ascetic, the yogi. He just saw, and king was afraid whether to enter into the contest or not. Because if I lose, I will have to, give half of my kingdom to this diamond merchant. Whether to enter into the contest or not. So then king looked at his Rajaguru and he said, "No, king, it's no problem. I will tell which is original and which is duplicate." So the diamond merchant was surprised how you would be able to tell. So the king's Chamberlain, Purohit, he said, both the diamonds he took it in his hand and put it in sun for some time. After 10 minutes again actually he touched both the diamonds. One diamond was quite a bit hot and one diamond was normal. Okay, it did not get heated up. And that diamond which got heated up, he said, this is artificial. And that diamond which did not get heated up is real. Then king looked at the diamond merchant. The diamond merchant, yes. The king, now the diamond belongs to you. Then the king asked actually the Guru, Rajaguru, how could you find out? He said, "Oh king, this original diamond, okay, just 10 minutes I kept in sunlight. It did not get heated up. The artificial one, it just got heated up. So from that actually I could make out which was original and which was not. So now actually this corona, this virus is a challenge. How much of spiritual strength you have, mental strength you have, intellectual strength you have, you can prove yourself. It's a challenge to the whole mankind. How you deal with the situation, how calmly, how peacefully, okay, you will deal with the situation. And that depends how much you have understood Vedanta, how much you have understood philosophy. Such challenges may come, n number of challenges. The problem is the most fearful thing. The thing that man is terribly afraid of is death. But in this culture, if you just look at our philosophy, our scriptures, they have never made it a big thing. Jatasya dhruvo mrityu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. For a man who is born, death is certain. For a man who is dead, actually, birth is certain. Okay? You don't believe in transmigration, you don't believe in mukti. It's okay. But as the Lord says in the Gita, okay, Arjuna, even if you don't believe all these things, if you don't understand. For a man who is born, death is certain. And a man who is dead, birth is certain, he is saying. Then why to grieve over? Tasmat apariharyete. Tvam shochitum arhasi. This is inevitable. You know, in the Bhagavata, Shuka Maharshi said to Parikshit, Tvam tu rajan marishyati pashubuddhi mimam jahi na jataha prag abhuto adyah dehavantaha na nangshasi. Tvam tu rajan pashubuddhim. This idea that I am going to die is pashubuddhi, he says. It's an animal idea, animal understanding. Very strong language. Generally in Bhagavata you don't come across such strong language. But there Shuka Maharshi is saying to Parikshit that if you think that you are going to die, it is pashubuddhi. You have not come out of that pashubuddhi yet. That human intellect has not come to you. Still you are still at the level of animal understanding only. You are not going to die. Tvam tu rajan marishyati pashubuddhi mimam jahi. You conquer this pashubuddhi, animal understanding, lower understanding. Na jataha prag abhuto adyah dehavantaha na nangshasi. Na jataha na nangshasi. Because the self is not born, it will never die. That which is born might die, but that which is not born, that which is ajataha, that which is unborn, how can it die? It can't. Najataha nanangshasi. Because it's not born, it will not die. You will not die, your body will go. The takshaka, the snake will come and the snake will bite you. The body will go. You'll drop it happily and joyfully. Your consciousness will merge in the supreme consciousness. You will merge in God, the Krishna, universal consciousness. Liberation for you, mukti. Then Parikshit says, because of your grace, O Gurudeva, I have conquered death, I have conquered fear. So this is the understanding we have here in our culture. But you just see today how much of fear is there in the world. Because the fear is always about the fear of the unknown. Right? Fear is about the fear of the unknown. Because you don't know what happens post-death. What is after death, we don't know. That's why we want to hold on to the body. Fear. I am dying. I will die. Okay. Even if you don't have understanding, you believe in the scriptures, what the sages have said. You are Atman. Primarily we are Atman. Atman alone is real, not the body, not the mind. The change for entities, these two are unreal. So all the drama that is happening actually is happening in the mind. So this mind is totally unreal. And to what extent we can understand this phenomenon of death, to understand it well, we have a small story in the Mahabharata. But today we read them as stories. Most of the times we don't even read them as stories. We are not even in touch with that. If we practice self-control and if we practice meditation, if we practice spiritual sadhana, how much of strength we will get? Where death becomes a joke. Where death becomes a joke. Sorry. In the Mahabharata, in Aranya Parva, it comes. The power of austerity, the power of asceticism, the power of tapas. There was a king by name Dundumara. He was born in Haihaya Vamsha. You know, in those days, kings would go on a hunting expedition now and then. They would go into the forest and they would kill animals. It was to keep the animal numbers in check, and sometimes out of fun, out of just a kind of vice also. Sometimes they would enjoy like that. They would go into the forest and kill animals, random. So this Dundumara, the prince, went into the forest and he was hunting animals. One day when he went on a hunting expedition, from a distance he saw a Muni Balaka, the son of a Rishi, who was wearing deer skin. Where from a distance he saw, he thought it was a deer. And he shot his arrow. And the son of the Muni fell dead. He went there and saw the body just fell there. And he was terrified. Now Brahmahatya Pataka, killing a Brahmana, that too an ascetic. So this Haihaya prince goes back to the kingdom and reports to the elders. Oh father, oh uncle, this is the mistake that has happened. Inadvertently, I killed a human being. I shot the arrow thinking that it was a deer, but it turned out to be a human being. And then all the elders come and they saw the dead body there. And then they go to the nearby ashrama. That ashrama actually belongs to Takshamuni. And the boy who was dead actually, Takshamuni's son. And they went to Takshamuni, and Takshamuni receives them well, and he wants to entertain them with all, Arghya and Padya, and he wanted to show them the normal hospitality. But they were not in a mood to receive all that. And they said, this tragedy had happened, O Muni, or sage. We are very sorry. We can't accept all this hospitality. Oh, why are you worried? The Takshamuni asked. So, our boy, this Dundumara, he shot an arrow, and through that actually he killed that Muni Balaka. And the Takshamuni says he called out to his son, and the son comes out, and that dead body which they had seen in the forest, now actually the man is alive here. They were surprised and stunned. And Dundu Maharaj said, this was the boy whom I had killed in the forest. I saw him lying dead there, and how come actually he came back to life? Now that is all because of your tapas power of Takshamuni, the king told. I said, don't worry. So now you accept hospitality and then go back to your kingdom. See, when you practice these austerities, okay, there is self, constantly meditate on it, reflect on it, cogitate on it. I am self, I am immortal, I am consciousness, I am not the body, I am not the mind. Day and night, keep on doing this sadhana. One day it becomes your experience. Once you experience that consciousness, the body becomes a shadow. You can have it or you don't want to, you can just discard it. So in that Takshamuni's son case, same thing happened. How can you think actually one normal arrow can kill a Brahmagyani? He will become Ichcha Mrityu, he will get. He wants to die, whenever he wants to die, he will die, that's all. Not because somebody X and Y can kill them. That was the kind of strength that they had displayed. And the Ahaya king was surprised, how that would be possible. I hit the arrow and the boy fell dead there, but still actually he came back to life. These things we all actually read and we all study as impossible things today, right? We all read these things as mere stories. There is no reality attached to them, we think. But that is possible. Our rishis actually, by using sadhana, doing sadhana, they used to get to such superconscious states. Death becomes a joke at that point of time. Death is only the physical body, but the physical body now it's not real. It can't stand on its own. And also the mind, it can't stand on its own. It is the consciousness actually which animates both the physical body and the mind. Without that, these two entities cannot exist. But that which is real is eternal and it's immutable. Shrunvantu vishvi amrutasya putra aye dhamani divyani tastu vedahametam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasah parasthat. Vedahametam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasah parasthat. It is of the splendor of the sun, the soul, the consciousness, the Atmanis. Tamasah parasthat is beyond darkness, beyond ajnana, beyond ignorance, beyond niche, beyond the mind. That is the truth. That is the reality of our personality. So we have so many such incidents, stories narrated in our scriptures. The Bhagavad Gita, as the Lord gives the assurance, if you can't do the sadhana a whole lifetime, okay, at least at the time of breathing your last, you just remember me and you will attain to me, he said. That is the concession that the Lord gives for Kali Yuga. Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshayaha. But unfortunately, today, people who die in ICUs, nobody makes them actually hear the divine name. You can whisper divine name into their ears. The secularism, what to do? In government hospitals, anyway, you cannot do. In private hospitals, at least. Okay. At least whisper divine name into their ears. Anyway, they are going to breathe their last. They are not going to survive. There is, they will get higher birth, better embodiment. These supports are totally removed. That's why people are dying in fear. Earlier days, they used to do like that. Thus, the end is drawing nearer. People would go and chant Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavata they would read. The soul, as the divine name actually has fallen upon the ears of the individual when the soul is left the body. The soul will attain to higher spheres. No, these are all beliefs, Swamiji, we don't believe in. They are not beliefs. They are all the teachings. There's all the wisdom given by people who devoted entire lifetimes to unravel the spiritual mystery of the universe. Today, for us only the material world, the world of name and form alone is real. They have dismissed this as unreal, and whole lifetimes they have spent to know what happens post-death. For us, it is not even a question today. We don't even put that question. That's why so much of fear. Everybody wants to hold on to this life. But anyway, you can't. Yama comes and drags us out from the body by force. We don't want to come out of. We don't want to go from the world. Whereas our people invited death. You come. You're welcome. I'm ever ready. How could they develop that much of strength? Now they knew the mystery. There is no death. It is only to the physical body. So these supports we have totally removed from the society today. That's why there is so much of fear. There is so much of psychological suffering. This is the only spiritual culture in the world. So much of time, so much of energy, so much of intelligence they have invested on spirituality. For years together, lifetimes they have spent, centuries together. And a country where the spiritual wisdom exists in such abundance, and people are today dying, completely deprived of that support. We are sitting on the bank of the Ganges and we are dying of thirst. That is our condition. At least one Lalita Sahasranama, Vishnu Sahasranama you can play in ICUs, private hospitals. What is the problem? What is the problem? It will be falling into the ears of the persons, whoever are there. Those who recover, those who die, they die with the divine name. Their ears. Patients are also not demanding that support. Right? This is the thing. So it is we you pay, then you ask of the hospital management that make such an arrangement. No, we are not asking. We have forgotten our spiritual moorings. This is the problem. So death is not alien to us, right? It is as natural as life. Life and death are obverse and reverse of the same coin, Swami says. It's just life, there is death, that's all. They are not two separate entities, they go together. Death follows like shadow. It's not an alien thing to fear. It is intrinsic to life. There is something beyond life and death. Of course, that is consciousness, that is eternal. If you gain that, if you become a Jivan Mukta, there is nothing like that. You aspire for that, you strive for that. This instrument actually is the best instrument that God has given you. Okay, even if you don't have such a high understanding, at least at the time of leaving the body, have this, and then you will get a higher birth, better embodiment. In Bengali, there is a song actually by Qazi Nazrul Islam. I think I quoted it last time. We all actually are terribly afraid of death. Death is a negative thing for us. But the poet and the mystic, he really caught the essence of death. He says, Smashane jagiche shamama. Smashane jagiche shamama. My mother actually, Shama, is awake in Smashana. So she has come and sitting in the Smashana, cremation ground. And he says beautifully there, she has given up the comfort of Kailasa because Divine Mother, her husband is Shiva. So her original dwelling place is Kailasa. But giving up the comfort of Kailasa, she has come and actually now to Smashana, cremation ground, and sitting here. Why? Antima Santane Nete Kole. Antima Santane Nete Kole, to take her children into her lap. To take her children into her lap. Why? Her children, those who are being burned by the fire of samsara. So she is sitting in the smasana and calling out to them, "Oh, my children, please come. Please come and sit in my lap. I will give you succor, I will give you peace, I will give you solace." Those who are being burnt in the fire of samsara, to all of her children she is calling out and asking them to come and sit in her lap, sitting in a smashana. And sitting on the pyre, she covers the fire with her sari, very beautifully captured, Qazi Nazrul Islam. And he says that so death is a great relief. Most of us, we think that death is actually inferior to life. We don't know. If you just go by the language of the mystic, they say death is far superior to life. But it doesn't mean that we need to commit suicide. I'm just saying. You don't have to get frightened. Not such a bad thing, I'm saying. Anyway, today if you just look at life, for most of the people, what joy is there in lives? We are conducting life as if it's such a huge burden, right? Death in installments. Today life is death in installments. Is it not? Is it real life? Is there any quality? How much of stress, how much of tension, how much of anxiety, how much of psychological strife, continuous strife. All our lives have become like the life of Karna. Karna longed for death, because only death would give me some relief. Because while I was alive, he was longing for death because death only would give me some relief. He was sure of that while he was alive. So much of humiliation, so much of suffering, psychological suffering. The majority of the people, it's like this today. Death, life has become like that. So, death in installments, life has become. It's unfortunate. All these struggles, this competition, this stress. So we don't know. Mother is calling out to her children, saying this, providing relief through death. Oh, what kind of relief is this, you may ask. But again, actually, you don't know what is post-death. But it could be that. Most of the people have made life in such a way that there is no any scope for any kind of spiritual evolution in this birth. The lives are hemmed in from all the directions in such a way, the way they are placed, the circumstances in which they are now. It has to go like that. There is no scope for even a little of spiritual development, a little scope for evolution, further evolution, because they are so preoccupied with this mundane grind. Maybe Divine Mother is calling out to all such people and making them actually, taking them into her lap. Oh, my child, come. I will give you rest. I will give you a better birth. I will give you a better instrument. So for us, actually, death is a very cruel thing. But if you just go by the language of these mystics, they have not considered it as a very cruel thing. But yet, we will make the best of the effort to save our lives. But if it cannot be, suppose you could not, you make the best of the effort. But there is nothing to worry if you go by our scriptures. Atman takes another birth. You get a higher birth if you can just take divine name, at least in the end. This way, we are asked to hold on to the divine as much as we can. The last class also we discussed जिंदगी है मुसाफिर का ठिकाना. It's only a way station. We're all wayfarers, we're all travelers. It is not a permanent abode for any one of us. We should have that idea, that understanding all the time. I'm here only for a while here. Okay. It's only a way station. So once you understand this, when you know that this is not the destination, then what I should do? To reach that place, the destination. If you forget the destination itself, then it's a great source of trouble. That's what the trouble is all about. There was an ancient kingdom. There was a tradition in that kingdom. After 60 years, the king had to go. They had to leave. The king had to resign. And then they would push the king forcefully into the forest. The king has to go into the forest and the king has to do penance and tapas, and then he has to live there on roots and fruits. So now actually 25, 30 years of life actually, you lived a life of comfort in palace. And suddenly 60, if you ask them by force, if you send them into the forest, how troublesome it would be. Not everybody Rama like. Rama, it was a really natural thing. He didn't mind going into the forest. So every king would go there only weeping and weeping, weeping. But one king, he was going very joyfully. Everybody was surprised, all the people were surprised. How come actually this king, so many kings we had seen before and they all wept. They had to be forcefully put into the chariot and drop in the forest. But this king was joyfully getting into the chariot. Then they asked, what was the secret? Then the king said, because I knew that anyway after I have to return after 60. So I built my palace there in the forest while I was king here. Okay, I built my palace there already. By using that little of this money, I can lead a comfortable life there in the forest now, no problem. So like that, when the body is strong, okay, when the mind and the body are in full vigor, you do spiritual sadhana, and that is actually your balance. That is actually your real sampada, real wealth that will come with you when you die, when you go to the next world. The spiritual sadhana that we do, the good works that we perform here, the divine name that we have chanted, that comes with us to the next birth. It's not ordinary sampada. To accumulate this wealth, you don't have to work hard, right? Physical wealth, you have to be in competition with your fellow human beings. How hard it is to earn, you know. But here there is no competition, right? So easy to acquire. And the physical wealth, however great it may be, however much it may be, you have to leave it behind here. You can't take it when you die to the next world. But the spiritual wealth, okay, the wealth of the sadhana that you have accumulated, that will come with you. That is the wealth only. That is the only wealth which survives death and determines your next birth. And everybody can accumulate that wealth. There is no limit to that. All our sages have said that. Do we pay any attention to that? I am asking. We don't pay much heed to that. We don't pay much attention because Shraddha is not there. Again and again we hear. But repeat God's name, that is the only wealth that comes with you. You repeat it and you have accumulated so much of that wealth, comfortably you can quit this world. Next is a very high birth, great birth, Suchi Nam Srimatam Gehe. You will be born in great families where conditions will be propitious for you to do spiritual sadhana further to attain enlightenment. If you don't get enlightenment in this birth itself, how much you can accumulate with this body? It's not an ordinary instrument that God has given us. So many sages have said this. Scriptures are saying again and again. So much of time we waste. So much time discussing about politics, discussing about this and that. 100 things are there. Bhagavata, the same thing is told. Shuka says to Parikshit, there are so many things for people to discuss about. Half of life goes on in sleep, and the remaining half, daytime, we have to provide for ourselves and provide for our family members. Our life goes in the struggle. Our remaining time, or little time that actually remains with us, and that time actually we waste in idle gossiping. So all that time can be saved. So just before going to bed every day, we just have to see how much of time actually I really made good use of today, how much time I have wasted. So you just do it for a few days, then you will understand that you are wasting a lot of time, phenomenal amount of time you are wasting. There's a lot of unproductive waste. And all that actually time can be used for spiritual sadhana. And then you will gain confidence over a period of time. And I am repeating God's name. What to fear. So even to face this virus, they say there are millions and millions of mutations happening all the time. And millions of bacteria and virus are there. But not every bacteria, not every virus becomes a pathogen. Not every virus becomes a contagion, right? So this virus at this particular point of time is affecting humanity to this extent. For an inanimate thing, whereas they say inanimate just a nucleic acid or a protein, and that such a tiny inanimate thing or semi-life is affecting the highest life on the planet Earth, and to such a degree, how do you think it's possible for a virus to do that without actually the higher intelligence if it is not attached to that? Okay, that's why I'm saying, so you just take a divine name. In Yoga Vasishta last time we discussed, there is a story of Karkati. There are evil forces and good forces also. Ravana also did a lot of tapas. Ravana did a lot of tapas. A good man. But he empowered himself through tapas, and divine only had given the Ravana also that power. So the negative forces are also empowered by the same divine energy. For various, last time also when we were discussing about Bharata, we discussed there are deeper purposes to life which we don't know as yet. The true meaning of all these purposes. So the nature has its own way of doing things. There are larger purposes. So here what we need to understand is, if you take divine name, and if you have faith in that divine name, and all these evil forces actually, you will be able to overcome them. Nothing actually will be able to destroy you, provided you have the faith, provided you have the confidence in the power of the divine name. So this small tiny nucleic acid virus won't be able to affect you. Take divine name in all good faith. Take this recourse also. It's not an ordinary antidote. It all depends upon the degree of faith you have. We don't have to fear, I am saying. Take divine name. That is the best antidote. We take all the medicines, but all the precautions that we need to take, we take all the medicines, all the things that are available for us. Along with that, take divine name. And also tell others also. Repeat God's name. So it's His will. Whatever happens, it's His will. I have taken to divine name. And my life is in easy hands. Have that confidence. Miracles will happen. So we'll stop here. It's time for Arati. For next 4 weeks, there will not be the Sunday talk. We'll meet again on 6th June. Because if I conduct Sunday class here, people are coming. I don't want to put your lives to risk. The Saturday class will go on. In the meantime, we can do some sadhana. Old talks are there, you can listen to them, plenty of time. You can come and meditate. And also, coming weeks, I think it will be quite hot. This is May month now. We can't provide you the comfort of cooler because of corona. So we don't want to trouble you. So I just want to uh, suspend the Sunday classes for 4 weeks. I hope actually this virus will go away by then and the rains come. So we shall resume this class from 6th June onwards again. Okay. Let us meditate for 2 minutes before we disperse. So that's what I'm saying. All these days I've been asking you to do sadhana. So this 1 month we shall do sadhana not for our own sake, but for the sake of all the people who are suffering in the world. So the sadhana, the divine name that you chant, not just for your sake, that will help so many people, thousands of people it will help. That's what we discussed when we were talking about Bhagavatam. That Uddhava says about gopis when they were repeating Krishna's name. Punati Bhunatrayam, he says. They were repeating Krishna's name with such intensity and with such pathos. And these gopis are not just purifying themselves, actually, they are purifying the three worlds, he says. That is the power of the divine name. So that will provide succor and solace to millions and millions of people. Because this faith, actually, people in the world we cannot tell. Today we are so dominated by science and we think science is everything. Yeah, everything has its role, but the spiritual science we have neglected. So as sadhakas, as devotees, as admirers of Ramakrishna Vivekananda, as these devotees of God, we can repeat God's name. So this 1 month actually you do as much sadhana as possible, not for your sake, for the sake of all those who are suffering. So I also want to concentrate and focus on that. We shall resume the talk from 6th June onwards. No? Ooh.